isn't always easy getting a movie or television show completed, especially if an actor needs to be replaced. This could be due to scheduling issues, conflicts on set, or the actors may not fit what the director had in mind in the end. All of these factors can hold up production time or be frustrating. However, the outcomes can be advantageous and give the film something it was lacking. Here's a list we've compiled. Don't forget to like and hit that subscribe button below. Have you joined our notification squad? If not, be sure to do so to see other great videos. Can you guess which movie these emojis are referencing? Make it through to the end of the video to find out.
They can't start none of this thing without me.
Daphne Reid, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. If you ever watched The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air in its entirety, then you would have noticed that Aunt Viv suddenly looked like a different person starting in 1993. Well, it definitely was a different person, as she was replaced. Daphne Reid replaced the original Vivian Banks, played by Janet Hubert, starting the 3rd season of the show. Since social media wasn't flourishing at the time, no one really knew the reason behind the change in actors. Back then, Janet's absence and replacement seemed to be due to creative differences. As it turns out, it was far more complicated than that. Even though Hubert may have been funny and a good actress, she did not get along very well with others on set, and apparently went a little nuts. It is said that she wanted the show to revolve around her. She was not keen on the then 20-year-old Will Smith coming in and having a show to himself. Hubert had been in the industry close to a decade after all. She was making close to $250,000 at the time, and then all of a sudden, nothing. Sometimes, it's a little hard to take the back seat when someone up and coming comes in and steals the spotlight. Mark Ruffalo, The Incredible Hulk. Most people think of Mark Ruffalo as the big green guy with shredded purple pants since he's taken over the role in the Avengers franchise. If you remember though, Edward Norton had the privilege of playing the Hulk as well, but things didn't work out in the long run. No one knows for sure why Norton doesn't play the Hulk anymore, but there may be some reasons behind it. Norton was promised a lot of creative control when he took on the role. Part of that control was him completely rewriting the script. The heads of the studio apparently didn't like his darker story and decided to work with Zach Penn's original script. The media caught wind of this and it was turned into a much bigger deal than it needed to be. It created even more of a rift between Norton and Marvel, and both parties agreed it was best if the role of the Hulk was given to someone else. It was probably a blessing in disguise that Norton stepped down, because he was able to work on some great movies such as Moonrise Kingdom, Birdman, and The Grand Budapest Hotel, all of which are very diverse and suited him very well. Mark Wahlberg, The Lovely Bones. If you didn't know, Ryan Gosling was supposed to star in Peter Jackson's 2009 movie, The Lovely Bones. The rumors initially were that Ryan Gosling was too young for the role. Actually, it wasn't that at all. Gosling had put on 60 pounds for the part, and the producers and directors were not too happy with this sudden body change. He said he put on the weight because that's how he thought the character of Jack Salmon, who is a grieving father, should look. A 210-pound man with a gut who's most likely depressed. Jackson and Gosling did not see eye to eye on how the character should be played. This was due mostly to the fact that there was limited communication between the two in the pre-production process. Gosling dropped out only 2 days before production began. If you remember, Mark Wahlberg eventually starred in the role. The movie was adapted from the book of the same name written by Alice Sebold, which was released in 2002. It was an instant bestseller and was popular with the teens and younger adults. Do you like Mark Wahlberg's performance in this movie, or would you rather have seen Gosling take a crack at it? Katherine Heigl, Knocked Up. Can you imagine Seth Rogen and Anne Hathaway starring together in Judd Apatow's Knocked Up? Believe it or not, Anne Hathaway was originally supposed to play the role of Allison Scott, the single, uptight, career-minded woman who ends up having a one-night stand and getting pregnant. Katherine Heigl was soon the new leading lady after Hathaway dropped out. Hathaway apparently was not too excited about the birth scene at the end of the movie, and that's the reason she dropped out. Having not experienced motherhood herself, she felt she was not right for the part. After the film was released, Heigl was upset that the movie seemed sexist to her, portraying women as humorless and uptight while all the men are goofy and fun-loving. It's strange why she would wait until the end of filming to state her opinion on the role. However, we don't know exactly what was going on behind the scenes. Even though Heigl may have disapproved of the movie, she gained popularity and played the character very well. After her role in Knocked Up, Heigl went on to star in movies like 27 Dresses and The Ugly Truth, 2 other romantic comedies in back-to-back years, gaining even more popularity in Hollywood. Don Cheadle, Iron Man. It may have felt strange for a little bit in the Iron Man series when Lieutenant Colonel James Rhodey Rhodes was replaced. If you remember, Don Cheadle took over the role for Terrance Howard after the first movie. The movie blew up at the box office, making over $318 million in the US, and the studio decided to go a different direction with the character of Rhodey. Howard was supposedly offered only a small fraction of what he was supposed to make for Iron Man 2, and the studio said that the sequel was going to be a success with or without him. Then in comes Don Cheadle, Tony's best friend, liaison between Stark Industries Industries and the military, and War Machine when he dons his own set of armor to help Iron Man out when he needs it. The on-screen chemistry between Cheadle and Robert Downey Jr. was a little different between him and Howard, but they still have similarities. The dialogue is still humorous, and the repartee between the two of them never gets old. Cheadle was allotted a lot of screen time in the sequel, and we were treated with great scenes between the two great actors. Do any of you miss the original Rhodes, played by Terrance Howard, or have you grown accustomed to Don Cheadle taking over the role?
Hey, Paul!
Christian Bale, American Psycho. This movie definitely requires an explanation as far as the casting is concerned. Believe it or not, Bale technically ended up replacing himself in the movie American Psycho. He played Patrick Bateman, a wealthy New York investment banking executive who hides his sadistic side from his friends. After Bale was originally cast, Leonardo DiCaprio was somehow hired at the 1998 Cannes Film Festival by Lionsgate executives. This was right after Titanic was popular and propelled DiCaprio to land more roles. Bale was surprised by the news, as was Mary Harron, the director. Harron refused to meet with DiCaprio, saying he wasn't right for the part and felt he was too boyish. Also, he wasn't credible enough to play one of the tough Wall Street guys. Leonardo's take on it is a little different. He had said he wasn't satisfied with the film's direction and had problems with the script and plot. Plus, he wanted to work on a different film, so he ended up abandoning American Psycho. It is kind of ironic that Mary Harron said he could not take on the role of a tough Wall Street guy. He did pretty well playing one as Jordan Belfort in The Wolf of Wall Street. Maybe he just needed some time to grow out of his boyish phase. Hugo Weaving, V for Vendetta. Remember, the 5th of November, the gunpowder, treason, and plot. If you've ever seen V for Vendetta, you remember this excerpt from The Anarchist by the name of V. Most people know Hugo Weaving, who gained popularity by playing Agent Smith in the Matrix trilogy, was cast as V. You probably didn't know this, but James Purefoy was originally cast as the masked vigilante. You may have remembered Purefoy from A Knight's Tale, playing the role of Prince Colville, who saves Heath Ledger from being executed. Purefoy quit production about 6 weeks into the filming of V for Vendetta, stating he did not feel comfortable wearing the infamous mask for the entire movie. He was upset that no one would ever see his face, and it was a great challenge acting-wise. He was also concerned with how many takes would need to take place whilst wearing the mask. As far as anyone's concerned, Weaving did not have any issues and was eventually cast in Purefoy's place. Even though Weaving's face was never shown, the iconic voice of his made up for it. It probably helped that the Wachowski brothers, who wrote and directed The Matrix, also wrote V for Vendetta. They may have put in a good word for Hugo. MICHIEL Huisman, Game of Thrones. If you're a Game of Thrones fan, you've most likely gotten used to seeing MICHIEL Huisman playing the role of Daario Naharis. You know, the bodyguard, advisor, and part-time lover of Daenerys Targaryen, the Mother of Dragons. You may have forgotten all about long-haired Ed Skrein, originally playing the role. He left after the very popular HBO show's 3rd season to play in The Transporter Refueled. It's tough to say for sure why he left the television series. Skrein has said that the most important thing in his life is family. Game of Thrones may have been taking him away from them for too long, or the possibility of making more money for starring in a major movie franchise was too enticing for him. Whatever the case, MICHIEL Huisman was thrust into the role and the show has gone on. He captured our attention with his bravery and smarts, as did Daenerys. Huisman gets quite a lot of screen time, and it's added an extra dimension to the show. Along with the love interest side with Daenerys and screen time eye candy, Daario's dialogue and dedication to the Khaleesi make for good television. His screen time should increase even more as the show progresses. Michael Biehn, Aliens. James Cameron made it big when he released Aliens in 1986. It had a little different feel from the original, but still wowed audiences with its special effects and style. Everything didn't go completely right though, as James Remar, who was initially going to play the role of Corporal Dwayne Hicks, left the project. It said he was unable to resolve his creative differences with Cameron. The result of this brought in Michael Biehn. Biehn starred in The Terminator and The Abyss, which Cameron also directed. Cameron apparently liked working with the guy, and he helped get his name out there. He received a phone call on Friday after Remar left asking if he could play the part, and then began shooting on Monday. He did a great job considering he was thrust into the role right away without the extra rehearsal period. He did not partake in the roundtable reading of the script or any army drills. Since they were playing soldiers on the screen, they usually take the actors out with a drill sergeant who puts them through the routine. Apparently Biehn hated to do that, so he was happy to jump right in and go with it.
I can't believe I'm having this conversation with my computer.
You're not. You're having this conversation with me.
Scarlett Johansson, Her. Spike Jonze' Her, starring Joaquin Phoenix, is sure to surprise audiences. It's a heartfelt story about a lonely, divorced greeting card writer named Theodore who ends up falling in love with an operating system. Theodore seems like a fairly normal guy who enjoys playing video games and occasionally hanging out with his friends when he isn't working. However, things start to change when he purchases the operating system. It's the first operating system that is artificially intelligent and is programmed to meet his every need. Their ad states, "It's not just an operating system, it's a consciousness." Samantha Morton was originally originally cast as the voice-only role of Samantha, the operating system which Phoenix falls in love with. She completed all of the filming for the movie, and then out of nowhere was recast with Scarlett Johansson. During post-production, Spike Jonze decided that Morton was not right for the role, and then in came Johansson. Technology seems to be advancing even more rapidly, and AI operating systems don't seem as far-fetched as they may have in the past. How do you feel about having AI in our society? Other movies have touched on the subject in different ways, and Her brings about the romantic side of it in an interesting way. What do you think of our list? Are there any others you can think of? Before we forget, the answer to the movie emoji is... well, did you get it? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to check out our awesome playlist.